Republican Senator Lindsey Graham could be facing a more competitive re-election bid come November. The South Carolina lawmaker is seeking his fourth term in the U.S. Senate. While the Palmetto State is considered reliably red, two new forecasts from the Cook Political Report and Larry Sabato's crystal ball have downgraded Graham's odds at re-election, suggesting his Democratic challenger may have more of a chance than previously thought. Emma Dumain wrote that article and joins me now for some analysis. She is a congressional reporter for McClatchy. Emma, thanks very much for being with us. What exactly does it mean to have these two prognosticators shift their ratings of the South Carolina race from safe Republican to likely Republican?
The important thing to remember here is just because these races have shifted from solidly Republican to likely Republican doesn't mean that Lindsey Graham is in imminent danger of losing his seat. He is an entrenched incumbent, a conservative Republican in a reliably Republican-leading state. He's sharing the ballot this year with Donald Trump in a presidential election year where the president remains enormously popular in the state, where Lindsey Graham remains very closely tied and aligned with the president. That said, his challenger, Democrat Jaime Harrison, a former state party chairman, an associate chairman of the DNC, a former aide to House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn, someone with DC ties and state ties, has been raising an enormous amount of money. This is becoming the most expensive statewide race in South Carolina history. Lindsey Graham has raised $22 million this cycle. Jaime Harrison has raised $15 million this cycle. He outraised Lindsey Graham by a couple $1 million in the most recent fundraising quarter of this year, unheard of in a race like this. So that caused major prognosticators, leading prognosticators of elections, like the Cook Political Report and Larry Sabato's crystal ball, to change their rating, to convey the reality that Graham does have a competitor this year.
So you touched on the fact that Harrison does have some momentum right now, relatively speaking. But as you note, Graham is an incumbent. He has a massive war chest. He has these ties to President Trump. What is the likelihood of a Graham upset in November?
I think a lot of it will probably come down to what the public thinks of President Donald Trump. By November, the American people are watching with great interest and great anxiety about how this administration is leading the country through an unprecedented global health crisis. In South Carolina, there still has not been a peak in cases, despite the fact that the state's Republican governor, Henry McMaster, is starting to reopen some businesses, allow some outdoor dining, and ending the state's work at home and stay at home orders. So South Carolinians even have yet to see how that is going to unfold in light of larger national efforts to control the spread of COVID-19. If we are going to see a so-called blue wave in November, if Joe Biden is going to win this election, maybe even come within closer margins in South Carolina, if not win the state, again, would have to be a wave election year. South Carolina is unlikely at this point to vote for Biden over Trump. But those are the situations, those are the circumstances under which Jaime Harrison could cause an upset if there is enough Democratic momentum and enough momentum among moderates and disillusioned centrists to switch their allegiances.
Well, we know that Senator Graham was also one of the most prominent defenders of the president during his impeachment trial. How might that affect his chances when voters head to the polls?
Yeah, that's another really important point, and that is something that Jaime Harrison is hoping to capitalize on as he continues to campaign in these critical few months, really, before the November elections. He is very much trying to show voters a contrast between the Lindsey Graham of 2015, who called Trump a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot, to calling him, one of the greatest presidents in American history, and doing everything necessary to show voters that they are yoked politically and policy-wise. They are frequent golf companions now. They have a direct line to one another. Lindsey Graham is one of the president's most ardent critics and really confidants and advisors at this point on anything from domestic to foreign policy. A huge shift, an unimaginable shift, really, when you think about it, between what Lindsey Graham was saying during the 2016 campaign. He didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2016, and now he is out campaigning for him in other states. He was there for the Iowa caucuses earlier this year before the pandemic took hold. So Jaime Harrison is very much trying to remind voters of that contrast and, like I said, motivate these perhaps disillusioned former Lindsey Graham supporters to switch allegiances. He already has one defection so far. The former president of Michelin North America, which is headquartered in Greenville, is a longtime Lindsey Graham donor, a co-chairman of his 2016 short-lived presidential bid. He announced last week that he will be voting for Jaime Harrison in November, and that's the type of voter that Jaime Harrison is going to try to stave off from Lindsey Graham in the months ahead.
Interesting. Finally, Emma, before we let you go, I do want to go back to the coronavirus and its effect on South Carolina. You mentioned the governor saying the next wave of business reopenings could come soon here. What are officials in South Carolina doing to expand testing and make sure that people are safe?
South Carolina just received a shipment 2 weeks ago of over 1 million masks, surgical, what are called PPEs. So, high grade medical protection for frontline healthcare workers around the state from China, which was a really big deal. That's Henry McMaster right there making the announcement. They were on the ground at the Greenville airport to greet the arrival of the mask. They are continuing to try to expand testing in the state where there are many of the same hurdles as other states around the country have confronted. South Carolina isn't alone in or isn't unique in experiencing much of the same burdens as other states in the country. It is not being hit as hard as other states in the country. We haven't seen it being hit as hard, for instance, as New York or New Jersey or Michigan, which is why Henry McMaster feels comfortable opening up some parts of the economy faster than other states. He's allowing people to dine outdoors under certain distancing. I think 8 feet apart. Tables have to be 8 feet apart and no more than a few people per table. Barbershops and salons are going to start opening up soon. Schools will be closed for the rest of the year, but people can start going back to work. So we're seeing a reopening in South Carolina before other states. And again, that it will be notable to see how that plays out for a lot of these political campaigns, a lot of these insurgent Democratic candidates who are not hoping for the worst, but will use at any point at which there becomes a crisis scenario to say we need new leadership in Washington.
All right, we'll be watching it closely. Emma Dumain for us. Emma, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.